Welcome to Light Novel Sound, where we bring stories to life. Get ready for an epic journey through Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, a story filled with action, mystery, and mind-blowing twists. A huge thank you to Sing-Shong for crafting this incredible story. If you enjoy this audiobook, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, sit back, relax, and let's begin. Chapter 36, Episode 9, Omniscient Sunfish, 1. After a while, we moved towards the entrance of the hidden dungeon on the first underground floor. I walked behind Li Jihai, Li Guilyoung, and Zheng Hiwan while looking at my smartphone. In the midst of the splitting headache, Yo Jonghyuk came to his senses. Give up on this life. This was the end of Yo Jonghyuk's 8th life. It couldn't be. This hadn't happened yet. Shit, why was this guy doing this on only the 3rd life? If he moved carefully like his 2nd life, he would have passed through the mid to late scenarios. I raised my eyes to see Zheng Hiwan looking at me. Dr. Sai, what are you looking at? The calendar. This situation has made me lose my sense of the date. I actually thought it might be more interesting to look at the calendar. Sometimes I wondered how I finished reading this novel. Zheng Hiwan looked at me suspiciously before turning her head towards Li Jihai. Then, did you say your name was Jihai? Do you also use a sword? Yes. I like the sword. Right? The sword is the best. It has a good taste. Uni also knows the taste. Zheng Hiwan smiled as she watched Li Jihai's sword. It was a luxurious sword that obviously flowed smoothly. Maybe it was given by Yo Jonghyuk. Your sword looks good. Master gave it to me. Uni? My one. I like mine as well. Zheng Hiwan looked down at the Grollhorn blade and then sneaked a peek at the sword on the other person's waist. I didn't do anything wrong, but I couldn't help feeling sorry. I had no choice but to hang something on Li Jihai. Hey, why are you talking to Huon Sai but ignoring me? I'm a bit weak to older females. Li Jihai responded with a quivering voice, and Zheng Hiwan gave her a headlock, as if Li Jihai was cute. There seemed to be a connection between the demon slayers. Li Jihai barely escaped from the headlock and asked, "By the way, why are you rescuing Master? We are companions. Don't talk nonsense. He is a useful guy. You sound like Master. The constellation's secretive plotter is wondering about your heart." Come to think of it, it wasn't just Li Jihai but the constellations as well who must be wondering about my actions. He was a guy who would kill me if he got a chance. It was strange that I would run to save him. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire likes your desire to rehabilitate a fallen friend. 100 coins have been sponsored. This one misunderstood me. But the demon-like Judge of Fire, unlike the expectations of the Archangel Uriel, I had a deeply personal reason for saving Yo Jonghyuk. It was to prevent him from regressing after his death. Regression after death. It sounded good. A regression stigma that triggered every time you died. The protagonist had a fraudulent ability. The problem was that this ability invoked complicated thoughts in the surrounding cast. By the way, what happens to the world after you return? A supporting actor had asked this of Yo Jonghyuk when Yo Jonghyuk's number of lives had broken into the double digits. I forgot his name, but Yo Jonghyuk's answer from that time was clear. I also don't know. I always choose a world where more people can live. It was plausible, but in fact, Yo Jonghyuk didn't know about the world he abandoned. In face, there was no definite theory about what happened to the world in ways of survival. Science, magic, whatever. This was why I was anxious. What happened to the world after the regressor disappeared? Would it reset with the regression? Or would a parallel universe branch off? The latter would be fortunate, but if it was the former... Hyung. Yes? Li Guilyoung, who was holding the hem of my clothes, looked up at me with anxious eyes. I think we're here? You are approaching the outside region. Be careful not to leave the scenario area. This message popped up. It didn't matter. Chungmuro's hidden dungeon was treated as an inside area. We turned the corner and exit 1 appeared. A dungeon entrance with an ominous shade greeted us. You have found a hidden dungeon. This dungeon has already been discovered by someone. You can't get the first discovery achievement. A new hidden scenario has arrived. Hidden scenario, theater dungeon. Category, hidden. Difficulty, A. Clear conditions, defeat the master of theater dungeon. Time limit, none. Compensation, 4,000 coins. Failure. The surprised Li Jihai hesitated and stepped back. What is this? Theater dungeon? Li Gilyang looked startled. Well, this must be the first time they encountered a hidden scenario. Zheng Hiwan also spoke. A movie theater as a dungeon, it sounds romantic. Romantic. This was only because she didn't know how scary the movie theater could be. We entered the theater. The familiar lobby of the multiplex welcomed us. You have entered theater dungeon. We were tense as we entered the bleak dungeon. It was a multiplex consisting of 9 floors, from B1 to the 8th floor. Hyung, the posters are torn. Who would do that? I'm not sure. I said this, but I actually knew the truth. The core of this theater dungeon were the posters on the wall. Perhaps Yo Jonghyuk defeated every poster as he went upstairs. His intentions were to sweep up all the rewards. Except for the torn posters, nothing strange was found on B1. There were no items and no monsters. The only exception was the smashed elevator in one corner with a distorted door. Li Jihai asked, "Isn't this a dungeon? Why isn't there anything?" Something will appear. Do you know something? A little. How? Something is fishy about a juicy. Is this your second life? That was her master. But he had lived 3 times. Then Zheng Hiwan said, it is due to the sponsor behind Dr. Sai. Really? I ignored the 2 women and tried to move to the ground floor when I was caught by Li Gilyang. The cockroach on his head was moving wildly. Li Jihai drew her sword at almost the same moment I covered her mouth with a hand. Shesh, there is somebody else besides us. I breathed out while small sounds started to be heard. Just upstairs. Then, the lobby? I first thought it was Yo Jonghyuk, but it wasn't Yo Jonghyuk's voice. Are you sure? Here, there are a bunch of things. Yes. I bought the information with 1,000 coins. The profits? Yes. They are disgusting, but the information is obvious. I heard the sound of people talking. We went up the escalator and approached them. It seemed that 4 people were gathered in the lobby on the 1st floor. Li Jihai whispered, "Who are they? I never once saw their faces in Chungmuro. Maybe they came from the ground side entrance." Ground side? Isn't that filled with poisonous fog? Furthermore, the scenario. Different stations have different scenarios at different speeds. There are those who have finished the scenario faster than our station. If there is a weak poisoning, they can eat the meat from the underground species. I said this, but I was confused. Profits? There was no information about such people in Yo Jonghyuk's life. At this point, Yo Jonghyuk and I should be the only ones who knew about the hidden dungeon. What caused the variables? Needless to say, I needed to find out. Then let's go inside. A blue spotlight was floating above the men talking. A bright light surrounded them and then they disappeared. What happened to them? Zheng Hiwan asked me, but I didn't answer. Instead, I was searching the posters on the wall. This was torn, that as well. By the time I reached the end of the wall, only one wasn't torn. I read the words written on the poster. Steven Spielberg, Samuel L. Jackson, Jeff Goldblum. That bastard Yo Jonghyuk, he left this one alone? As expected from the 3rd regression. At that moment, the light came on again. This time, the spotlight was aimed on us. The surprised Li Jihai and Li Gilyang stepped back, but there was no way to avoid it. The word ray suited it. I asked Zheng Hiwan, Huon Sai likes movies? Of course. Do you usually like it? You might hate it after this. What do you? You have been hit by a projection light. The screening will begin. The surrounding landscape started to slowly change. It wasn't a simple illusion, so fourth wall wasn't activated as before. The old linoleum floor became covered with green bushes, while the reception desk and popcorn stand turned into a lush rainforest. The ceiling turned into a blue sky with no clouds and no end in sight. Lee Ji-hai muttered in a small voice. "Where the hell is this place?" Lee Ji-hai shouted and hacked at the surrounding trees and bushes, but nothing changed. Lee Gil-young started looking for insects with a calm expression. I tried to touch the nearby trees. It had a hard and moist texture. It was a real rainforest from the Mesozoic era. This was a different realism from the Spectre's welcome prison. This was the power of the theater master on the dungeon's 8th floor. It is a movie. Really ridiculous things are happening. A novel had become reality. There was no law that a movie couldn't become reality as well. Jung Hee-won was a fast adapter and quickly understood. A juicy, what movie is this? You'll know soon. Can't you just let me know? Wait a minute, what is this kid doing? At this moment, the shrubbery moved and something jumped out in front of Lee Gil-young. An insect that resembled a giant praying mantis. The size was approximately 40 centimeters. Lee Ji-hai was terrified and cried out, "Hey kid! Back away!" However, Lee Gil-young responded calmly to the fuss. It isn't a praying mantis. It is a Titanoptera from the Triassic period. What? Lee Gil-young stretched out his hand to the Titano. The insect didn't refuse the touch, and after a moment, Lee Gil-young and the insect's body was wrapped in a blue light. Lee Ji-hai watched with a stupid expression. This, what? For Bray. It really was good that I brought Lee Gil-young. This guy's ability might allow us to pass through the gateway more easily. The giant praying mantis moved its big mouth and Lee Gil-young nodded. I didn't know what it involved, but they were having a conversation. After a while, Lee Gil-young paled as he talked to the praying mantis. What was it? Lee Gil-young hurriedly turned to me. Hyung. As he spoke, the sound of the earth shaking was heard. It seemed that something was coming at a tremendous speed, smashing the huge palm trees. Kuu! The muzzle of the giant reptile that appeared through the rainforest was covered with reddish blood. Some bloody men were running in front of it. It was the men who entered before us. Kuik! Save me! Lee Ji-hai stepped back and spoke to Jung Hee-won. I know what movie this is. Yes, me too. A body that was over a dozen meters tall and hard skin. Fierce muscles dominated the entire body. The strongest predator of the Mesozoic era was in front of us. At first glance, it was similar to a grade 7 monster. The difficulty level was atrocious considering this was the first floor of the dungeon. But my heart just thumped. The harder the hidden dungeon, the better the reward. I pulled out a blade and said, "Get ready to fight." Maybe Yo Jong-hyuk skipped only this movie because of the contents. The main reward of Theater Dungeon was related to the movie contents. Yo Jong-hyuk probably thought there weren't any worthy rewards in a movie where dinosaurs appeared. But he didn't know. In this movie, a really important reward was hidden. Are you serious? We are going to fight that. We need to beat it to make an exit. The exit? It is a long movie. Have you forgotten? A T-Rex was approaching quickly. The island's central laboratory was seen behind it. And an escape helicopter was on the rooftop of the laboratory. This was a movie. A movie that the master of Theater Dungeon made into reality. Therefore, there was only one way to escape from here. Let's make a great ending. Chapter 37, Episode 9, Omniscient Sunfish, 2. The moment the yellow eyes looked at us, a deafening roar echoed in our ears. Kuu! The 7th grade, Tyrannosaurus Rex has recognized you. The Tyrannosaurus Rex has triggered the Fear the Predator skill. The exclusive skill 4th wall has blocked the effect of the Fear the Predator skill. My mind w as calm thanks to fourth wall, but I could stop the chills that occurred. This was the fear towards a predator. Everyone, get out of the way. The petrified Jung Hee-won and Lee Ji-hai regained their spirits. I fell back with Lee Gil-young beside me. Caw 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 caw. A long tail flew through the forest in front of us. Kuwak! The men who were running fell on the backs and coughed up blood. Fortunately, Jung Hee-won and Lee Ji-hai were away from the danger zone. I shouted to Lee Gil-young lying down next to me. Gil-young fall back, while Huon-sai and Ji-hai-sai scatter to the left and right. Then a message popped up. The character Lee Gil-young has activated the dinosaur book skill. Here? Tyrannosaurus are agile compared to their size, but they are vulnerable due to their narrow field of view. What? I saw it in a book when I was a child. When you were a child? Younger than I am now. I stared blankly at Lee Gil-young. This wasn't the time to tackle it. Kuu! The exclusive skill White Pure Star Energy has been activated. I started waving the iridescent blade to attract the attention of the T-Rex. Lee Ji-hai and Jung Hee-won weren't tankers. I didn't even need to mention Lee Gil-young. Therefore, I was the only one who could take the risk here. While I draw its attention, attack its rear. I hadn't finished talking when I saw Lee Ji-hai and Jung Hee-won already at the T-Rex's rear. They noticed quickly. Kuu! I barely avoided the incoming teeth and the stomping legs. Before I could wield Unbroken Faith, its tail passed over my head. An electrifying thrill swept over my body. I wouldn't die because my stamina was over level 20, but it was dizzying. Maybe I had been lucky until now. I might be the sunfish rather than Yo Jong-hyuk. Sukak! Supak! Meanwhile, Jung Hee-won and Lee Ji-hai were steadily dealing damage from the rear. It was a combination of sword training and kendo. Noticeable sword wounds were being dealt to the T-Rex's big legs. If this continued, it might take some time, but the T-Rex would be defeated. Hyung! I'll draw its attention. The boy didn't listen to me about staying in the rear. No, Gil-young, I can do it. All of a sudden, Lee Gil-young came forward and started to make an unknown signal. I wanted to say something. Then a huge praying mantis came from somewhere, stabbed the T-Rex's eyes and fled. It was the Titano that Lee Gil-young had been talking to before. Ku! The T-Rex's eyes moved confusedly as it followed the praying mantis that disturbed its vision. Lee Gil-young used dazzling hand movements to control the praying mantis. I looked at Lee Gil-young with a fresh mindset. Wasn't this guy actually a hugely fraudulent character? No wonder why Yo Jong-hyuk coveted him. Kuwo! Thanks to Lee Gil-young's success, the battlefield quickly became advantageous. The T-Rex's movements became duller while a red light shone in Jung Hee-won and Lee Ji-hai's eyes. Demon Slayer. It made them vulnerable to mental attacks, but it was a good skill that made them stronger when they were excited. The sight of the two women's eyes burning as they watched the rainforest was truly spectacular. It was a pity that I had lost Lee Ji-hai to Yo Jong-hyuk. However, Jung Hee-won also had overwhelming growth potential. Judge of Destruction was a good attribute and she didn't have a sponsor yet. It felt like the T-Rex's stamina had decreased considerably. It was time to deal the final blow. Blade of Faith is activated. I started to focus my remaining magic power. I didn't have a sponsor, nor was I as fast as Jung Hee-won or Lee Ji-hai. But that didn't mean my attack power was weak. I had a fraudulent system that overcame all of this. Kuu! Ether Blade. The special option of Unbroken Faith is activated. The ether property is converted to fire. An enormous amount of magic power was sucked in and my physical fatigue became extreme. But I didn't mind because there was a way to supplement it later. The blade increased by 1 meter and was surrounded by flames. I ran to the rear of the Tyrannosaurus. Everybody out of the way! The moment that the Tyrannosaurus hesitated and its movement slowed, I climbed its tail. I almost fell over a few times because I didn't have the sense of balance, but I somehow held on by stabbing the blade into the epidermis. Coo-oo! The T-Rex poured out blood and its body rolled across the ground. I rammed the blade in wherever I could. Flames poured into the wounds caused by the blade. The yellow eyes of the T-Rex stared at me as it gasped painfully, before finally dying. You have succeeded in being the first to hunt the 7th grade species Tyrannosaurus rex. You have obtained 1,000 coins as compensation. Ah, we really got it. I knew we could do it. Jung Hee-won breathed heavily as she spoke with a proud expression on her face. She could be proud because the T-Rex was top-ranked among the 7th grade monsters. Lee Ji-hai belatedly rushed towards me. I had it. What? It would have taken a long time if you continued hitting it like that. I wiped off my sword while speaking. Jung Hee-won asked. But was a Tyrannosaurus killed in this movie? No, but isn't this more fun? Hey! The genre is fantasy, action and adventure. This should be enough. At this moment, a system message flashed in my head. The theater owner is satisfied with the changed ending of the movie. Jung Hee-won screamed like it was absurd. Eek! Yes. The strategy of Theater Dungeon wasn't to see the real ending. If so, Yo Jong-hyuk wouldn't have been able to beat this dungeon. It was to create the desired ending for the theater master at the core of this dungeon. Please note that the theater owner was an extreme psychopath. Do you understand now? We just need to smash it. In other words, if we removed all the obstacles to the ending, the movie would end naturally. Now you can move to the next floor. Go to the helipad on top of the research laboratory. We will move in a little while. We have to get some rewards. I started exploring the area around the T-Red. Soon after, I found one of the guys who entered before us. The rest were eaten or mutilated by the T-Rex. Hey, wake up. You. Blood was constantly flowing from the man. The wounds were from the T-Rex's claws. The bones were revealing, making it obvious that this person couldn't recover. Breathe slowly. Sea cough, alive. I fed the man drinking water I had brought in. The man drank some water before coughing up blood again. I was forced to urgently ask him questions. How did you come here? Prophet. Who are the prophets? The man's breathing was getting rougher. A revelation received. Revelation? I want to live. Blood burst out from the man's mouth. He finally died. Jung Hee-won and the others came up behind me. That person? I shook my head and looked down at the fallen man. Revelation. What funny bullshit. As far as I knew, only Anna Croft had the ability of future sight in ways of survival. Then there was only one answer. There was someone else besides me. But they didn't know as much as I did. The proof was that they didn't dare come here in person to test out the information. Dr. Sai? Take a break. We covered the man's body with a large lead and gathered near the dad T-Rex. W had to hurry to pursue Yo Jong-hyuk. But if we didn't get enough rest, the party would be wiped out before we met him. I searched the T-Rex's body. I looked at the head and heart, but unfortunately, I couldn't find any monster cores. That didn't mean there was no income. Jung Hee-won drooled as she watched the T-Rex being cooked over the fire. Can we eat this? We can eat it because it is cooked with magic flames. The unripe parts can be cooked with the magic power stove. We sat side by side around the T-Rex's leg. As we cut the cooked flesh of the T-Rex little by little, steam rose. Lee Gil-young shouted, "Fresh meat!" Lee Ji-hai hurriedly rushed up and grabbed a piece first. The rest of the group, including myself, also picked large pieces of flesh. Meat of this size? It was a luxury that couldn't be dreamt of back when I was an office worker. Lee Ji-hai closed her eyes while enjoying the taste. Then she murmured in an ecstatic voice. Ah, the best taste in the world. It really was delicious. The fat was properly wrapped around the muscles, making it different from the ground rats. The feeling every time I took a bit. If Yo Sanga was here, she would have cried. After I consumed the meat, I felt my stamina recovering. The meat of an advanced species had these special effects. However, caution was required in some cases. Jung Hee-won sighed. Phew! I ate well. It is really delicious, but I will cry if I eat any more. We had a moderate rest and then headed straight to the laboratory in the center of the island. We encountered several raptors on the way, but they were easy after the T-Rex. There were many flasks and ampoules in the laboratory. There were small incubators containing dinosaur embryos and blood samples collected. There was only one thing missing. My eyes caught a few items as we entered the inner corridor. Stamina enhancing ampoule. Magic power enhancing ampoule. Agility enhancing ampoule. Strength enhancing ampoule. As expected, it was here. I started to pack the ampoules. Just like the ichthyosaur's core, these comprehensive stat growth items were available only in the early scenarios. It wasn't just 1 or 2 ampoules. There were close to 20 bottles. If this was the case, my stats would be able to level up explosively. It was in anticipation of this hidden scenario that I saved coins instead of investing them in my stats. These ampoules were only available when the corresponding stat was less than level 30. A juicy, what did you find now? Ah, this ghost-like girl. What? Stamina enhancement ampoule? Lee Ji-hai's eyes shone as she grabbed one ampoule. Are you trying to eat these alone? Eat them all? Of course I will share it. Uni, look at this. A juicy. The other people in the party came closer due to the turmoil. Jung Hee-won was shocked when she checked the item information. Oh my god, what are these items? This is a hidden scenario. I spoke with a bit of disgruntlement. Damn, this was a bit difficult. I didn't catch the T-Rex alone, so taking all the items pricked my conscience. Some constellations are displeased with the situation. Lee Ji-hai looked at the strength enhancement ampoule and opened her mouth. Can you give me the strength enhancement ampoule? I am a bit lacking in strength. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. It was a summary version that only contained the comprehensive stats. Character summary list. Name, Lee Ji-hai. Private attribute, Scarred Sword Demon, Rare. Exclusive skills, Sword Training LV4, Demon Slaying LV1, Absolute Sense LV2, Ghost Walk LV2. Stigma, Sea Battle LV1, Large Army Command LV1. Overall stats, Stamina LV13, Strength LV17, Agility LV13, Magic Power LV10. This damn girl. Here? Hee-won Uni, can't I have it? Dr. Sai was the one who discovered it, so it is his decision. Frankly, it didn't matter if the other party members received them, but giving them to Lee Ji-hai was a bit of a waste. She was part of Yo Jong-hyuk's group anyway. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire expects your fairness. Fairness? Yes, let's pick the most unbiased game I knew. I smiled and made a suggestion. How about rock, paper, scissors? Rock, paper, scissors? There will be one winner at the end. Greed filled Lee Ji-hai's face. Okay. Well, I will do what Dr. Sai wants. But is it okay? It could be a mistake. Then doesn't that mean he is unlucky? Lee Ji-hai asked. She was excited at the thought of getting a share of the items. Let's start with a strength enhancement ampoule. I put out the strength enhancement ampoule and said to Lee Ji-hai, you will face me. I'm good at rock, paper, scissors. Will it be okay? Ah, is that so? I smiled at Lee Ji-hai. Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 1 has been activated. The character Lee Ji-hai has prepared scissors. Chapter 38, Episode 9, Omniscient Sunfish, 3. The constellation's secretive plotter is curious about your scam. The constellations have sponsored you 200 coins. The winner of the rock, paper, scissors was decided in an instant. Lee Giliang's face was slightly flushed while Jung Hee-won had a satisfied expression. Lee Ji-hai flopped to the ground with a devastated expression. This is ridiculous. Unfortunately, I couldn't read Lee Gil-young's mind, so 2 ampoules went to him. You don't have to give it to me. Take it. He was cute. I stroked Lee Gil-young's head. In addition, Jung Hee-won won 2 stamina enhancement ampoules. Jung Hee-won received them with a smile. Thank you. It was tough so far with my stamina. It was only Lee Ji-hai who didn't obtain any ampoules. How can you beat me 18 out of 20 times? Did you cheat? I am originally good at rock, paper, scissors. Are you really going to do this? Can't you give me just one? You have Yo Jong-hyuk. I ignored Lee Ji-hai's whines and packed the ampoules. Jung Hee-won patted the shoulder of the grouchy Lee Ji-hai while staring at Lee Ji-hai's shining sword. Little sister, the world has to be fair. Do. There was the sound of the helicopter's propellers. Lee Gil-young looked at the distant dinosaur island and asked, Hyung, can't I take it to the next floor? The big praying mantis was sitting in Lee Gil-young's lap and talking to Lee Gil-young. The praying mantis rubbed its antenna against Lee Gil-young's jaw. Unfortunately, you can't take it. Lee Gil-young hugged the praying mantis with a sad expression. Take care, Titano. Quiek. He had already given it a name. Unfortunately, monsters created in Theater Dungeon couldn't move to another floor. However, items could be taken to other floors. For example, I had the ampoules that increase stats and the item I was now holding. Tyrant T-Rex's DNA ampoule. The golden ampoule was the most decisive reason for choosing this movie. It was an item that increased all stats by 10 for 30 minutes after ingestion. Although it had the disadvantage that it could only be used in Theater Dungeon, it was impossible to break through the last floor of this dungeon without this item. Especially if Yo Jong-hyuk was in the worst situation as I thought. The praying mantis that Lee Gil-young released flew in the air and the dark sky started to collapse. The first ending credit has been reached. Performers: Kim Dok-ja, Jung Hee-won, Lee Ji-hai, Lee Gil-young. You have obtained 500 coins as compensation. I felt some dizziness and we appeared on the ground floor again. After we escaped, the movie posted on the wall was torn. It was evidence that we safely cleared it. Lee Ji-hai was complaining. Do you have to pass a few more floors like this? Yo Jong-hyuk will have broken most of it, so it will be faster than you think. We headed straight to the second floor via the escalator. From the second floor, the remaining space was narrow because it was the full-fledged theater. Jung Hee-won asked. There's no change? No matter how long we waited, the environment on the second floor didn't change. The camera wasn't seen and the screening didn't start either. Looking closer, all the posters on the second floor were torn. Lee Ji-hai noticed something. Is it only the movies whose posters are intact? I checked the torn posters one by one. Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro, a giant robots writing movie? Too bad. If this had been intact, then I could have gotten the reward of hardened gloves. Inception, directed by Christopher Nolan, it was good that this one was torn. Wow, I wanted to watch this. I saw the poster that Lee Ji-hai was looking at. Do you like superheroes? Yes. It is fortunate. Otherwise you would hate it after this. I see. On the torn poster, a green monster was roaring at us that we went straight up to the third floor. It is the same here. All the posters on the third floor were torn as well. Yo Jong-hyuk had properly swept through it. It was fortunate since there were a lot of dangerous movies on the third floor. Final Destination, directed by James W. That bastard Yo Jong-hyuk, how did he break this? This was an annihilation movie. We are going up faster than I expected. Unlike Jung Hee-won's bright voice, I was nervous every time we climbed a floor. Clearing the theater dungeon required some luck. Some of the posters on each floor weren't covered in Ways of Survival. Yo Jong-hyuk didn't clear all movies. There was a system message when we entered the fourth floor. You have entered the fourth floor. The spotlight poured down without giving me time to look at the posters. Jung Hee-won gathered both hands together and prayed. Please don't be a ghost movie. I glanced at Jung Hee-won and she gave me an excuse. Ghosts can't be killed with a sword. This was the reason. The screening has started. The background changed and when we opened our eyes, a sea breeze blew on the prow of a ship. This? Salt was felt in my mouth and the open horizons spread out before me. I was enraptured by the scenery of the sea. I had been working every day and it had been a few years since I've traveled anywhere. What is this movie? Next to me, Jung Hee-won was wearing a full-length dress. A violin sound was heard from the inside of the cruise ship and there was the sound of excited people. It was an incredibly romantic atmosphere from a movie. Oh, I know what this movie is. Then Lee Ji-hye's voice was heard. Oh, accelerating all of a sudden. I looked back and saw that Lee Ji-hye was vomiting. Jung Hee-won rushed over and patted her back. After vomiting for a long time, Lee Ji-hye said, I get seasick. It is okay, just vomit. I had wondered this since a while ago. Why did the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare choose Lee Ji-hye? No, I read the novel but I just didn't want to know. But Uni, is this the movie? The boat that sinks? It seems so. Then, perhaps Uni is Kate Winslet. Lee Ji-hye looked at Jung Hee-won's dress like she was envious, then she looked at me. Then a juicy is DiCaprio? Weak. I felt somehow grumpy when I saw her vomiting after saying that. At this time, Lee Gil-young emerged from behind me. Hyung. Lee Gil-young was dressed in formal clothing. This clothing was somewhat familiar. Anyway, everyone was gathered. There is no time. The ship was now sinking. Unfortunately, the solution to this movie didn't appear in Ways of Survival. How could we beat the Titanic? Was it a fight with the sea? Lee Ji-hye was the first to comment. The ship is sinking anyway. Do we just have to sink with it? That is a little. It was frustrating. It would have been better if the movie had a clear enemy to crush. Let's look for the villain Hyung. This was Lee Gil-young's opinion. I didn't know if there was an obvious villain this movie, but since I couldn't think of anything else, I decided to follow it. Then let's handle the villain. We started moving. By the way, who was this movie's villain? The last time I watched the Titanic. But I didn't need to worry. The villain came to find us. A man in a clean suit was staring over here. Jack Dawson. Wait, Jack Dawson, the role that DiCaprio played? But the man wasn't looking at me. Me. He was DiCaprio? I sighed as I looked at Lee Gil-young. After a while, we kidnapped a person we thought was the villain of the movie. But the theater master didn't respond. It wasn't enough to kidnap him. I hesitated for a moment before opening my mouth. Then, let's kill him. Lee Ji-hye pulled out her sword and pointed it. It was at a man struggling while his body was tied up. The theater master is a psychopath? Then isn't the answer to kill him quickly? I thought so as well. No, I was sure of it. It was the answer to another movie like this in Ways of Survival. But Jung Hee-won gazed at the man in horror and unexpected said, "But, he looks like a real person." Hey! This is a movie but he is just like a real person. It was surprising that Jung Hee-won said this when she had been neatly subjugating the weak a few days ago. Then again, Jung Hee-won had said something like this, "I might be a killer but I don't want to become a monster." Lee Ji-hye asked, "Uni, what are you saying this type of sentimental thing now? You don't want to kill him?" "No, that isn't it. It is good to save people. But if this person doesn't die, we will die. We are definitely alive but this guy is just a character." Characters? I felt bemused at Lee Ji-hye's words. Jung Hee-won looked at me. "Do you think so? Even if this guy is a real person, he is still a bad guy. Why is killing him bad?" Lee Ji-hye's words might be right. This guy was definitely a villain of the scenario and would do bad things. So it was okay to kill him. Funnily enough, it was the logic that Yo Jong-hyuk often spoke about in Ways of Survival. The moment I opened my mouth, Li Jihai hurriedly drew her sword. Sigh, what is this? Master could be dying right now. The blade descended and pierced the man's chest. Blood poured out. It was incredibly realistic. Then a system message was heard. The theater owner is satisfied with the changed ending of the movie. The stern of the ship will lead to the next floor. Look, I did it properly. Right? Li Jihai shouted triumphantly. The answer obviously wasn't wrong. The theater master acknowledged this, and the constellations would give coins for our actions. We would survive with these coins. It was a way of living that destroyed this world. The second ending credit has been reached. Performers: Kim Dokja, Jung Hee-won, Li Jihai, Lee Gil-young. You have obtained 500 coins as compensation. We weren't able to get a reward item from Titanic. Thus, we went straight to the next floor and followed the guidance of the system message. You have entered the 5th floor, the rewards room. Once we climbed the escalator, the rewards room finally showed up. Rewards room? It isn't a scary movie. This is an exhibition hall. It was a place they used to show original movie props. In fact, I knew this, but I once again acted ignorant. Various movie props appeared in glass tubes. Equipment and costumes used by the main characters of various movies, stage accessories. The funny thing was that they were no longer props. Jung Hee-won approached a glass tube and shouted, "Oh my god, look at this! Mikazuki Munechika, replica, a grade sword." Jung Hee-won's eyes sparkled as she looked at the glass tube, and I nodded. "You've finally obtained a proper sword, Huon-sai." Whoa! It was obviously a great sword at first glance. The originally Grolhorn knife wasn't comparable, and it wasn't lacking when compared to Li Jihai's blade. Jung Hee-won started to swing the sword in his hand. Isn't this amazing? It is light and moves properly. I had never seen Jung Hee-won like this. The character Jung Hee-won is deeply grateful to you. It was nothing. The main purpose of targeting the theater dungeon was the compensation of the 5th floor. The theater dungeon was a good place to farm for items early on. In particular, Jung Hee-won would become stronger with this weapon. The reward items are limited to 2 per person. It wasn't a genuine star relic person, it was a movie prop, but the replica version had characteristics of the original item. A-grade items were close to a scam in the early stages. By the way, Yo Jong-hyuk had already passed through here. 2 items were already gone. Pick your items. Each one can only obtain 2, so choose carefully. I told Jung Hee-won to pick an item Yo Sanga could use, while I found one for Lee Hyun-sung. This one seemed usable. Hercules shield replica, a grade shield. Good. It was an item that couldn't be compared with the old iron shield. I thought of how Lee Hyun-sung's eyes would shine with loyalty towards me and already felt warm. Lee Jihai, who claimed to be a fan of superheroes, was trying to pull an item from the corner. Why can't I hold this? I came closer. This was it. Mjolnir, replica, a grade blunt weapon. The hammer of the god of lightning, Thor. It would have been an enormous item if it was a genuine star relic. Still, the quality of the original was so great that the performance of the replica was significant. I watched Lee Jihai groaning as she grabbed the hammer that couldn't be moved. Isn't this an item that only someone special can use? Damn, I'm not special. At this time, Lee Gil-young came up behind her and reached out to Mjolnir. Hey kid. This is mine. Mjolnir was lightly lifted by Lee Gil-young's hands. Lee Gil-young swung the hammer around before looking at me. Hyung, can I have it? Yes, it looks good. Lee Jihai once again looked stunned. Only I am unhappy, just me. I ignored her and searched the remaining items. Let's see what was left. External reinforced suit, replica, a grade protective clothing. I didn't know what would happen in the future, but it would be nice to supplement my defense. Once I wore the suit, it wrapped around my arms and legs. Damage from external attacks is reduced by 10%. The ability to detect enemies is improved. You can move more agilely than before. It was a bit frustrating, but it was still better than not wearing it. In particular, I thought about the fight waiting at the end of this. Now the preparations were finished. Since there were no significant changes in the dungeon, it was clear that Yo Jong-hyuk was alive. If we moved quickly through the 6th floor, we might be able to meet on the 7th floor. In the worst-case scenario, if he was fighting the boss on the 8th floor, at least he was still alive. Now, let's go and get our damn regressor back. Chapter 39, Episode 9, Omniscient Sunfish, 4. Unfortunately, Yo Jong-hyuk wasn't on the 6th floor. The only comfort was that the movie on the 6th floor was easy. It was a typical thriller directed by Bryan Singer. I knew the killer, so it was possible to clear it quickly. The theater owner is satisfied with the changed ending of the movie. You have obtained 500 coins as compensation. Lee Ji-hai asked as if she was dumbfounded. He was really the killer. Don't tell me it is a spoiler? There is actually someone here who hasn't seen it. The Constellation's secretive plotter hates spoilers. In any case, an item was rewarded due to the movie's unique characteristics. Skill book, Calm Observation. Calm Observation. It was quite a useful skill. This skill allowed the user to see the movements of the target and figure out their overall stats. It didn't mean much to me since I could use character list, but it would be quite useful for people like Yo Sanga and Lee Gil-young. This skill would be good against enemies excellent at acting. The exclusive skill Calm Observation has been acquired. Still, I felt a bit sad. It would be nice to experience a movie like Gladiator. I had yet to obtain a suitable combat passive skill. He might purchase the skill weapons training, but it wasn't a good idea to spend coins on the skill right now. Now I am tired of movies. I agreed with Jung Hyun's words. I didn't want to look at a movie theater for a while. I should just be satisfied with the high performance fee. We went directly up to the 7th floor. Maybe this time we could see Yo Jong-hyuk's back. Damn. Most of the posters on the 7th floor were torn. Yes, Yo Jong-hyuk was now in the boss room. Under these circumstances, there was really no time to delay. Run. It is almost the last floor. We started to run. We had to catch up with that guy as fast as possible. Before he gave up everything. We passed through the auditoriums and ran down the aisles. The posters on the 7th floor were of Korean movies popular in the past. Shit, please let all of them be torn. However, unlike what I hoped, the last poster was still intact. Damn. The screening will begin. The blue spotlight covered the party and the scene changed. My head spun and a salty smell entered my nose. The stage was the sea. But, this time it wasn't a cruise ship. There was the smell of artillery. The rough texture of the Panoxian could be felt. Panoxian Wiki Link. The moment I turned my head on the shaky boat, I heard someone's voice. Everybody, down. I reflexively fell down and there was a bombardment of gunfire around me. Tang 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 tang, a few soldiers collapsed while bleeding. Protect the ship, ah! The soldiers dressed in old military garb were rushing around. An uneasy wind blew as war took place. The turbulent Myingyang Strait was swirling and there was the distant sound of drums. Damn it! There was no Korean who didn't know this movie. It was because this movie had been watched by most South Koreans. Jung Hee-won looked at the horizon and muttered. This? How can we win? The ending of Theater Dungeon would only open when the master was satisfied. Kuku-kukun. 300 Japanese warships filled the sea. I hurriedly confirmed the power on our side. Still, this was a movie based on historical facts. There was hope. What is this? There was only one Panoxian where there should be 12. I hurriedly grabbed one of the sailors around him and asked, "Where is the commander?" "Commander. Admiral Yi." The Navy sailor had no idea at all. My chest became cold. It was different from the movie I knew. The theater master changed the story. In no time, the enemy narrowed the distance. This was ridiculous. How could we win the Battle of Myeongyang without help from the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? I looked around and hurriedly exclaimed. Lee Ji-hai. Teal. For those who won't know, this movie is the Admiral, Roaring Currents about Admiral Yi Sun-shin, which broke records when it was released. Wiki link here. I thought that this might happen. In fact, I brought Lee Ji-hai not just for her power but to consider the what-ifs. The constellation Maritime War God is sorry for Lee Ji-hai. It wasn't difficult to find Lee Ji-hai. There was only one boat and the place where Duke of Loyalty and Warfare's messages could be heard was limited. She was vomiting in a corner of the first-floor deck. Hey, are you okay? Lee Ji-hai looked up at me with moist eyes. I can't do it. This wasn't about me. The constellation Maritime War God is encouraging Lee Ji-hai. Never, I will never do it. Oath. She vomited once again. I knew. The reason why this person was chosen by Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, despite hating the sea. Due to the effect of your exclusive attribute, the memories from the books you have read will increase. In my head, a scene from the 40th chapter of Ways of Destruction passed. Hey, how did she get chosen by the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare when she is afraid of the sea? I don't know. Maybe because she has the Admiral in her ancestry. She is the descendant of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? There was considerable criticism from a few readers apart from me who made it to the 40th chapter of Ways of Destruction. No, did it make sense for her to have the blood of the great Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? But I had read all the chapters except for the epilogue of Ways of Destruction, so I knew. Lee Ji-hai wasn't of the bloodline of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. The constellation Maritime War God misses his old friend when he sees Lee Ji-hai. Then are you a Lee from the Deoksu clan? No, I am a Jeonju Lee. TL note, as with all Korean family names, the holders of the Lee surname are divided into different lineages, known in Korean as Bongwon, based on their ancestral seat. Most such clans trace their lineage back to a specific founder, and are generally not related to one another. Wiki link. The constellation Maritime War God looks at the descendant of an old friend. Lee Ji-hai was the descendant of Lee Eokgi, the companion of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. Lee can also be romanized as Yi. I chose to make it Lee to match with Lee Ji-hai, his descendant. Wiki link. Duke of Firmness and Compassion, Lee Eokgi. Along with the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, he led the navy to victory in the Battle of Tanghangpo and the Battle of Hansandu. He was one of the few who defended the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, Yi Sun-shin, when he was arrested on unfair charges. However, he didn't have enough myths and didn't become a sponsor. The constellation Maritime War God is looking at Lee Ji-hai with sad eyes. Due to that, the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare selected Lee Ji-hai. She wasn't his descendant but the descendant of his closest confidant. Maybe it was simply the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare's choice. Perhaps the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare didn't see it. The fact that the descendant of his deceased confidant and friend would be killed by his own hands and become a demon. Well, this was according to the setting of Ways of Survival. A bounty scenario has occurred. Bounty scenario: those who seek death shall live. Those who seek life will die. Category: Sub. Difficulty: B+. Clear conditions: the Maritime War God is asking you for help. Encourage Lee Ji-hai, incarnation of Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, and win the Battle of Myeongyang. Time limit: 2 hours. Compensation: a stigma from the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. Failure. I doubted my eyes for a moment. The bounty scenarios were rarely requested by a constellation alone. I looked closely because it was strange and saw that the reward was also extraordinary. The stigma of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare? If I cleared this scenario, I would be able to use one of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare stigmas without signing a contract. I shook Lee Ji-hai. Lee Ji-hai, stop it. Quickly. I don't want to. Ugh. The three of you can handle it. Can't you endure it a little bit? Endure? A juicy doesn't know. I didn't know. Yes, this was her manner of talking. However, there was no time to accept her childish actions. No, I know. You aren't like this because of seasickness. What? It is because your dead friend liked this movie. Lee Ji-hai shook, like a boxer hit in the jaw. It was like a scene rushing into her head. It was the first scenario at Depot Girls High School. She strangled her friend with her bare hands. Tiet. How did you? Don't ask how I know. There is no time to explain. Lee Ji-hai looked up at me with blank eyes. You killed your friend with your own hands only to die like this. The first floor deck was pierced with a hook. I grabbed the hook, shooting towards Lee Ji-hai with my bare hands. Lee Ji-hai shook as she looked at me. You can run away here or not. You will never be forgiven. But there were loud shouts. I could hear the sound of Japanese raiders jumping on the ship. If you wake up now, at least you can save some people. I came up onto the second floor deck with the trembling Lee Ji-hai. Lee Gil-young and Jung Hee-won were already surrounded. I raised my weapon. The enemies were ordinary Japanese soldiers. We wouldn't lose in a one-on-one battle. The problem was that there were too many numbers. Kuak! I sliced at the incoming soldiers but couldn't see an end to it. The enemy ships were firing from a distance. We were finished if this ship sunk. The movie would end tragically and we would die here. Lee Ji-hai. I realized the greatness of Yi Sun-shin. How did he lead this battle to victory? Wake up now. This was a cursed scenario. We didn't have Song Yo-jung or Jung Young-do. Apparently close companions of Yi Sun-shin. All we had was a weak girl protected by the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare. The girl staggered on the deck of the second floor. I'm disgusting. I don't deserve to be alive. Yes, it was disgusting. I was disgusting along with the way that I was using her. No one would be qualified. You are. Tears endlessly poured from Lee Ji-hai's eyes. I held Hercules' shield and stood in front of her. Kwang! 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 Survive and take responsibility. Atone for the rest of your life or live a garbage life. Just somehow survive. The ship was being broken by the indiscriminate shelling. I turned to her with cold eyes. Or do you really want to die here? Your understanding of the character Lee Ji-hai has increased. All types of emotions came from the crying Lee Ji-hai. She was drowning in the dark emotions of resentment, self-contempt and disillusionment with the world. Nevertheless, there was a straightforward emotion under it. I don't want to die. The constellations were selfish. There were those who didn't support their incarnation or didn't care if their incarnation died or not. But as long as any constellation was in the stage of their myth, they wouldn't turn away from their incarnation. The constellation Maritime War God has responded to the will of Lee Ji-hai. A brilliant red light burst around Lee Ji-hai's body. It was good for Yo Jong-hyuk, but I didn't get nothing. I had something to gain. The character Lee Ji-hai has received a new stigma. The third stigma of Sword Demon Lee Ji-hai. It was the strongest stigma that would later make her a maritime admiral. To God. Lee Ji-hai held the hilt of her sword and looked at the sea. There were many enemies and no allies. She quietly turned her sword towards the world. There are still 12 ships left. A radiant beam emerged from the end of her sword. The character Lee Ji-hai has activated the stigma Ghost Fleet LV-1. Water vapor rose in the area. Water sprayed all over the place and 12 ghost ships appeared in the sea. Get revenge on the enemies. The drumming paused like it was embarrassed. Shells flew towards the ghost fleet. However, the ghost fleet was disembodied and didn't suffer any damages. Die in this place. Finally, Lee Ji-hai's fleet started to move forward. 12 ships moved through the water, creating countless ripples. The white barrels started firing and the ships blocking the path collapsed helplessly. Caw 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 caw. The girl who didn't cry led the battlefield. In front of the ghost fleet, the warships were completely overwhelmed. It wasn't just me. Jung Hee-won and Lee Gil-young also gaped at the scene. This was the real power of a stigma. It was the power of the admiral that wasn't pushed by anyone in a maritime war. In the fading light of the sunset, the screams of the Japanese were heard from among the smoke. The whirlpool of Mianyang Strait sucked in the dead bodies. It took less than an hour for the last enemy ship to collapse. The theater owner is satisfied with the changed ending of the movie. The fourth ending credit has been reached. Performers: Kim Dok-ja, Jung Hee-won, Lee Ji-hae, Lee Gil-young. You have obtained 500 coins as compensation. As soon as we received the ending credit, additional messages came up. The bounty scenario is cleared. You have received the Maritime War God's reward for the bounty scenario. Frankly, I was filled with expectations. Maybe I would get Ghost Fleet. If I could just get it, then I wouldn't be envious of Lee Ji-hae. The Stigma Song of the Sword has been acquired. I thought I heard wrong when the message popped up. The Stigma Song of the Sword. This was originally a stigma that Lee Ji-hae acquired midway in the story. Yet the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare gave me this stigma. The constellation Maritime War God thanks you. In a sense, this skill was something I needed more than Ghost Fleet right now. If I had this stigma, I might be able to prevent the worst from happening on the 8th floor. The surrounding scenery slowly changed and we returned to the inside of the movie theater. The exhausted Lee Ji-hae was staring at me. A juicy. You rest here. We will go to save Yo Jong-hyuk. But. Listen up. I obtained a new stigma, but I didn't have time to laugh. No matter how good the stigma, there was no meaning if this world was over. In order to prevent that end, I had to save Yo Jong-hyuk. I distributed the ampoules I gathered to everyone. When raising the stats level, the coin's consumption was increased every 10 levels. Therefore, I would use my coins first before the ampoules. 4,000 coins have been consumed. The comprehensive enhancement ampoules have been used. Stamina LV 18 Stamina LV 24. Strength LV 18 Strength LV 24. Agility LV 11 Agility LV 20. Magic Power LV 10 Magic Power LV 15. All stats have increased significantly. We climbed the last stairway. Everyone, get ready. You have entered the 8th floor, the Heavenly Garden. The 8th floor of the theater was a rooftop. It was a small dome reminiscent of an opera house. As soon as I stepped on the green grass of the rooftop, I found the back of the regressor I was looking for. Ah! When I thought about all those who would suffer if he died, my anger soared. Fortunately, the back of his head was good enough to be hit. Hey Yo Jong-hyuk! I ran towards Yo Jong-hyuk and hit him in the back of the head. Chapter 40, Episode 9, Omniscient Sunfish, 5. The cold sensation numbed my fingers. Damn it, I really wanted to beat this guy up. But there was something strange. Yo Jong-hyuk! This guy, he didn't look back. A grey-white aura was flowing from Yo Jong-hyuk's body. The aura felt ominous and caused my hairs to rise. I instinctively took a step back. Looking closer, the aura was connected to an old man sitting on a chair on the 8th floor. I knew everything the moment I saw this old man. The Theatre Master's simulacrum has been revealed. Damn it, it had become like this. Yo Jong-hyuk emanated the whitish aura and slowly turned towards me. It was the worst situation. The Theatre Master's simulacrum has controlled the character Yo Jong-hyuk. Goosebumps covered my entire body. A formidable killing intent was rising from the guy who lost all sense of reason. There was no character in the world who could stop this guy now. The character Yo Jong-hyuk has used Force Palm LV4. I barely managed to open my mouth. Wait a minute. Kwang! I experienced a strong pain in my side and my consciousness became numb. As this person who did as he liked shot forward, pages flipped through my head. I was alert. The 8th turn Yo Jong-hyuk didn't die in Theatre Dungeon because he was weak. Strictly speaking, Yo Jong-hyuk wasn't lucky. The boss of the Theatre Dungeon is the worst opponent for a regressor Lai Yo Jonghyuk. My breathing was back. Ku Hup, Hyuk. The external reinforced suit is damaged. There is a reduction in the defense. I got up while holding my abdomen. It was a really nonsensical attack power. I ate so many ampoules yet still received this much damage from one blow? One blow dealt huge damage and I was blown away to the other side of the rooftop. The character Jung Hee-won has used demon slaying LV2. In the distance, Jung Hee-won's eyes were burning. I tried to get up but my body wasn't listening to me. The character Jonghyuk has used 100 steps Godly Fists LV4. The current Jung Hee-won wasn't Yo Jonghyuk's opponent. She could endure a few blows due to demon slaying but blood started to emerge from Jung Hee-won's mouth. Yo Jonghyuk was much stronger than I expected. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. There is too much information about this person. Character list is converted to summary list. Only randomly specified items will be displayed according to user's convenience. Character summary list. Name, Yo Jonghyuk. Private attribute, regressor, third turn, myth, pro gamer, rare. Exclusive skills, sage size LV8, hand-to-hand combat LV8, advanced weapons training LV5, mental barrier LV5, 100 steps godly fists LV2, red phoenix Shuanpa LV1, omitted. Stigma, regression LV.3, transmission LV1. Overall stats, stamina LV28, strength LV27, agility LV26, magic power LV25. The character is currently in a loss of reason state. This bastard. He activated a new stigma. Transmission. It was a stigma that allowed Yo Jonghyuk to wake up the skills he had in the past over time. Through this stigma, Yo Jonghyuk would become a full-scale monster. Master! At this time, Lee Ji-hai came upstairs. The jerk flying towards Jung Hee-won turned towards Lee Ji-hai. Caw. Kayak! Thanks to the favor of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare or maybe Ghost Walk, Lee Ji-hai fortunately avoided the blow. I shouted toward Lee Ji-hai. He is being controlled. Go after the theater master. However, Lee Ji-hai wasn't free enough to do so. In the end, we couldn't reach the theater master without going through Yo Jonghyuk. Jung Hee-won and Lee Ji-hai's eyes crossed. Their swords moved towards Yo Jonghyuk at the same time. It was the combo of kendo and sword training. But the combo that damaged even the T-Rex didn't work on Yo Jonghyuk. Ku-heok! Lee Ji-hai was hit in the face with 100 steps godly fists, spat out blood and collapsed. The character Jung Hee-won has activated the exclusive skill Judgment Time. The constellations of the Absolute Good system are silent at Jung Hee-won's request. The skill has been cancelled. Jung Hee-won cursed. Damn it, not this guy as well? It was natural. Yo Jonghyuk was ruthless but his essence was righteous. Jung Hee-won was hit by a force punch and lost her sword, rolling across the ground. In this desperate moment, Lee Gil-young used the special skill Mjolnir's Thunder from behind me. Kukukun. The character Yo Jonghyuk has offset the impact of the attack with lightning resistance. Yo Jonghyuk looked this way. Shit. I knew he would be strong but, this much? I touched Lee Gil-young's shoulder and staggered forward. Gil-young. Please. Do you know what to do? Lee Gil-young quickly noticed and immediately nodded. Yes, Hyung. I'm sorry. No. Lee Gil-young started to mumble something straight away. Lee Gil-young's pupils slowly reversed. I didn't want to do this but now I had to mobilize all my cards. You have used the Tyrant T-Rex's DNA ampoule. All stats will explosively increase for 30 minutes. Yes, let's fight you son of a bitch. Stamina LV 24-Stamina LV 34. Strength LV 24-Strength LV 34. Agility LV 20-Agility LV 30. Magic Power LV 15-Magic Power LV 25. The vitality in your body is rising. The potential of your muscles have exploded. You can move more agilely than before. Your heart is seething with an unknown energy. The gap in insufficient skills was filled with overwhelming stats. If Yo Jong-hyuk's transmission was complete, it would be a useless gamble. But it was possible since the skill level was low. Still, it would only be for a moment. This moment was good. The exclusive skill White Pure Star Energy LV1 has been activated. The accumulation of stats will increase the level of White Pure Star Energy. White Pure Star Energy LV1 - White Pure Star Energy LV2. The feeling of the magic power at my fingertips changed. I didn't have to run as he rushed towards me first. I realized my momentum was unusual as he pulled out his sword for the first time. The character Yo Jong-hyuk has used Splitting the Sky Energy LV. Kakakakak. Sparks flew from our blades. Neither Yo Jong-hyuk or I stepped back. I felt tremendous pressure as I gripped the blade. Blue ether burned around his blade. At this point, it was wonderful beyond admiration. In the world of ways of survival, higher stats created an absolute gap in power. Now my physical stats were in the third stage while Yo Jong-hyuk was in the second. TL, so over 30 and over 20. Still, he wasn't pushed by me at all. No, it was to the point where I was pushed. I gritted my teeth. Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 2 has been activated. As soon as the skill was activated, Yo Jong-hyuk's thoughts entered my mind. It is painful. Several more times in the future. Do I need to repeat this? I was furious. This bastard, already? Wake up, you jerk. I struck his sword with all my might and stretched out a fist towards his jaw. The attack was possible because I read his movements with Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Supak! My fist hit his chin and he stumbled for the first time. Once the regression begins, everything will go back to the beginning. All my companions will lose their memories and my history is erased. You idiot! Then everything will repeat again. In fact, sunfish were very durable creatures. They died because they were vulnerable to stress, not because they were weak. Just like this guy in front of me. The theater master was able to control Yo Jong-hyuk was due to his uneasy mental state. The theater master had weak physical abilities but the best mental abilities. If Yo Jong-hyuk's mental barrier was over level 80,000, this wouldn't have happened. What am I? Yo Jong-hyuk's eyes were blurred. I was furious once I heard the thoughts in his head. Aren't you a real protagonist? As someone who read all 3,149 chapters of Ways of Survival, I was furious. Haven't you only regressed 3 times? I once again hit his head with all my strength. Was it a miracle? The blow to his jaw slowed him down a bit. I didn't miss the opportunity and kicked his chest. Do you really think so? You have already forgotten the determination of your first attempt. I am the only living thing in this world. A lonely voice. You bastard, don't fall into those sentiments. I shouted while blocking his sword. If you can't find the meaning of life in front of you, didn't you decide to live for the greater cause? The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, is activated. I didn't know who I was talking to anymore. Hot flames sprang up from the blade. My eyes stung and my skin became raw from the heat. My voice was breathless. Maybe I was also lost in the moment. I am alone. It was as if I was Yo Jong-hyuk or even lived Yo Jong-hyuk's life. My chest was tight. Alone? What did I come here for if you are alone? My sword struck and tore at his hands. Blood flowed and the flesh was torn. I wielded the sword like a madman. I gritted my teeth. Why are you alone? When you died like a fool in the theater dungeon, when you cried over your dead little sister, when the prophet stabbed you in the back, when your loved one gave birth to a child. As I was talking, I strangely recalled other memories. Letters and letters passed. My old memories of Ways of Survival. You went crazy after your child died. The complex memories of his family affairs and things he experienced passed through my mind. Fighting against the demon kings and the returnees. The nightmares of the senior officers in the army. Helping people and fighting against the damn reincarnators. When you finally stood before the constellations. The days when I struggled to get a job and when my bosses were vile and abusive. Everything was in order to live. In order to survive every day. Look around you and try to live somehow. Even so, I returned home. I felt relieved when reading one novel. My hand holding the blade trembled. I became too excited. Damn it. I just needed to buy enough time. I breathed roughly and looked ahead. But something was strange. Was it an illusion? It was only a moment, but a dim light was returning to Yo Jong-hyuk's hand. Some things couldn't be understood even if I read his mind. My heart thumped the moment I saw Yo Jong-hyuk's look. The excessive immersion has caused the fourth wall to shake. Yo Jong-hyuk's eyes were staring straight at me. You, who are you?